Number 10, Chadwick Boseman. The late, great Chadwick Boseman was not just an incredible performer, but an incredible man. In his early years of acting, no matter what his status was, he was always vocal about the things that he did not agree with or understand. During a commencement speech to the graduating class of 2018 at his alma mater, Howard University, he spoke about a time when he was fired from a show for questioning the producers about the stereotypical depiction of his character. At first he was excited, as he was promised a six-figure contract, more money than he'd ever seen in his life. However, the moment he saw the role that he was playing, he was conflicted. The role was wrapped up in assumptions about people of color. He said that the character was just a young man with a violent streak pulled into the allure of gangs and with zero glimpse of positivity or talent in the character. After filming a handful of episodes, Chadwick brought his concerns to the attention of the producers, who told him that they were very pleased with his performance, a performance that he was actually fired from the next day. Apparently, the things that he was asking caught the producers off guard. The conversation over the character actually came up when he was called into the production office, and they were very happy with what he'd been doing on the show, and it was clear they wanted him around for a long time. But when they asked him if he needed anything to be more comfortable, it was his opening. He asked them if they could just discuss his character a bit for plot purposes, asking them only two questions. Where is my father? And if my mother is not equipped to be a good parent, why did myself and my brother need to go to foster care? While the producers did have answers, when Chadwick asked if they felt that he was a stereotypical character at all, the producers stared for a moment before suggesting that he speak to the writers if he had any suggestions. The goal was to give his character a new lease on life, but the next day, he was fired for speaking his mind, something he's never regretted once, and that never stopped him from pursuing his dreams. Number 9, Sylvester Stallone. Considering the success of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise, it's difficult to imagine anyone else in the leading role of Alex Foley other than Eddie Murphy. But it turns out that at the time, the role was initially offered to one of the biggest stars of the 1980s, Sylvester Stallone. What's funny still is that at the time he was not just a skilled actor, but earning an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay for Rocky. But it seems that Rocky and the studio didn't really agree on many things, and eventually Stallone was exited from the project. One of the first major changes in Sly's version of the script was the violence. He wanted it to be ramped up to 100 and make it a real action movie. But the film was presented to him as a comedy. Even though he agreed to do it, he wanted to make some changes before the cameras rolled. He was exclusively told not to change anything about the film, but he insisted and rewrote the project as a 50-50 action comedy movie. When he presented the changes to the producers, they were not pleased with his script. In fact, quite the opposite. It was quickly decided that Sylvester would be let go as the lead and Eddie Murphy would be brought in to fill in the blanks. It was not in vain, as he took that mangled script, incorporated elements of the novel Fair Game by Paula Gosling, and eventually it became the 1986 film Cobra. Although it wasn't loved by critics, it did go on to make around $160 million globally, which pretty good at the time. Number 8, Edward Norton. Three-time Academy Award nominee Edward Norton has been the leading man in many memorable movies: Primal Fear, American History X, and of course the most famous one, but as we all know, one of his most famous and mainstream roles was in the 2008 MCU flick, The Incredible Hulk. Although the movie was not a massive success at first, the audience was shocked when Edward Norton was replaced by Mark Ruffalo in the first Avengers film. The president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, said that the decision was not monetary, but it was actually due to the company wishing to hire an actor who embodied the creativity and collaboration that the other Marvel stars had so far shown on their projects. After Kevin made these statements, however, Norton was amicable but adamant about splitting ways with Marvel, and mentioned that his roles in Birdman and Moonrise Kingdom would oppose the loud and extravagant role that he had in the MCU. Many believe that his calm response may be because he was paid handsomely before he was let go as a little bit of hush money. Marvel is good at hiding secrets, especially from their actors, but it was still so early in the MCU that Edward was certainly aware of hidden details and events that would make him a liability in the industry. Number 7, Colin Firth. The live-action Paddington movies are surprisingly very popular. The series, based on the children's book, has really hit home for a lot of people. First and second film are currently rated at 97% and 99% fresh, respectively. 99. The success of the film can of course be attributed to the incredible cast, including the voice of Paddington, Ben Whishaw. But of course, Ben was not the first voice that had been recorded for the role. Initially, the voice of Paddington was done by Kingsman star Colin Firth. I know he's been in other things, but I love those movies and that's how I know him best. Not only did Colin record all of the lines start to finish, but he was not told that he was being replaced until a couple of months before the premiere. In some of the first promotional videos for the film, the animated bear never does anything more than grunt. It turns out that the creative team felt Colin's voice just didn't match with the vibe that they were going for. It made Paddington sound too old and distinguished when he needed to be some fresh young thing. Yeah, he was just happy to be working. Now let's get into some more dark Hollywood backstories, shall we? Number 6. Jim Carrey's origins. A Canadian legend, Jim is considered one of the greatest modern comedians of all time, famously releasing 3 films in the year 1995, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura, which all made millions at the box office, and still hold up to this day. As many know, comedians tend to have a pretty rough backstory, as the best comedy comes from a place of pain. Over the years, Jim has come clean about his strange but fun upbringing. His family struggled financially, and he grew up watching his mother struggle with depression, which he claims to have passed down to him. Despite his energy, he was a bit of a recluse growing up and apparently spent hours in his room making faces in the mirror instead of hanging out with. After dropping out of high school to work a full-time job, Jim and his family were forced to live in a Volkswagen van together, becoming homeless for a short period of time. He went on to attempt a career in comedy, at first to minimal success, but of course, he was able to find his footing and made his place in comedy history. Number 5. Woody Harrelson's father. Woody is best known in Hollywood as the wildest wild child to ever exist. He eats raw meat, he's an eco-crusader, a protester against violence, and an advocate for the legalization of herbs and spices in the United States. He's loved on screen, but did you know that his father took people out for money? And I'm not talking about on dates. Charles Harrelson was sentenced to 2 lifetime sentences for the slaying of a federal judge in San Antonio. Prior to that charge, Charles had previously been acquitted for the slaying of Alan Berg, a carpet salesman, and convicted of the slaying of Sam DeGalia Jr. Yeah, the evidence shows that Charles was not a great hitman. Woody doesn't speak much of his father these days, opting to instead leave his family troubles in the past. He does, however, say that the one thing that his father said to him that he still uses to this day was, always keep an open mind. Yeah, Charles knew all about opening minds. You can't put that in the video, that's just for the editor.
I just did.
Number 4, Mark Wahlberg should be in jail. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch hit the rap scene in 1991. Despite sounding like the title of a cheesy kids show, the crew had a small following and garnered a lot of success, enough for leading man Mark Wahlberg to be spotted and picked up by Hollywood to star in The Corruptor, a 1999 action flick that sees Mark playing the leading man. Action by the numbers, kinda get it? He's had a successful acting career that has recently been declining in quality, but he's still acting and looks jacked at the age of 50-something. So please don't hurt me, Mark Wahlberg. Infinite was just hard to watch. Growing up in Boston, he was the youngest of 9 children and was relentlessly bullied by his fellow siblings. His parents divorced when he was very young, and he became addicted to no-no snow by the age of 13. He dropped out of high school and was eventually arrested when he was 18 for attempting to slay 2 Vietnamese men. Apparently, he was just walking home late one night under the influence of a hallucinogen narcotic that I won't get into, when he spotted the men. Close friends at the time confirmed that Mark had a racial biased upbringing, which caused him to be instantly aggressive towards anyone who, wasn't white. He attempted to swing a large log at them, which made contact and knocked one of them unconscious, and he was eventually released after serving only 45 days of his 2-year prison sentence. And he vowed to change his life. So far, he's kept that promise. I can personally confirm that he's very polite and patient because he actually watched a movie at a theater I used to work at. He travels with a crew of 5 people at all times. It's a little intimidating. Number 3, Tim Allen's hobbies. Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear and the star of ABC's sitcom Home Improvement, which premiered in 1991. Now, while he may have played a family man on TV, many fans may not know that Tim was a smuggler of no-no snow in the early 1970s. According to Tim, he got mixed up with some bad people back in the day while he was selling certain substances on the street for a couple of bucks. In 1978, Tim was arrested in the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport, that's an awesome name, and was caught with more than 650 grams, 1.4 pounds of no-no snow. Unfortunately for Tim, state legislators had just passed a law that tied a life sentence to any conviction of selling 650 or more, Like, as he was being arrested, there was a guy in his car like, okay, and if you have 650 grams, okay, yeah, you're a goner, Tim. However, that sentence was never served, as it was revealed that Tim was set up by an undercover police officer who had been following him for months. Due to this, and Tim's cooperation in providing the names of fellow dealers to the authorities, led to him receiving a lighter conviction that allowed him to be sentenced in a federal court instead of a state one, being able to ignore that new policy altogether. His information led to 20 arrests and the sentencing of a major dealer. That needs to be a movie. Number 2, they have backups. There have been many rumors over the years that Hollywood likes to clone their best and brightest on the off chance that they will need them again following an untimely demise. According to the internet, Paul Rudd actually got to star alongside his clone in the show Living With Yourself, not some CGI thing. Now, Paul has, of course, claimed the performance was achieved with CGI and filming one character one day and another the next, but come on, Paul Rudd's also 54 and looks, well, like that. Something's not right about that. Now, there is a theory out there that celebrities are made up of lizard people who take the forms of actors and singers to influence people. Paul is thought to be one of those lizard people. I don't know. I don't believe this theory. I'm just sharing some stuff I found on the internet. I don't believe any of this, okay? This is fun. It would be awesome if there were 2 Paul Rudds, though. In fact, that would probably be the most chill way to find out that clones existed. Just 2 Pauls being like, hi, I'm Paul. And another one being like, hi, I'm Paul. And everything's gonna be okay. Number 1, they're all broke. That's right, despite it being one of the most lucrative industries in the world, most of Hollywood actors, writers, directors, all of them are not as well off as people may think. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last little bit, most of Hollywood was closed for a while as its staff were on strike. Some of the toppest of tier actors joined the crew in solidarity, and they are actually still on strike right now, not stopping until Hollywood's producers and big budget studios start sharing the money they make. Actor Sean Gunn gave an interview a few weeks ago where he mentioned working on a show currently streaming on Netflix, a show that has made over $4 million in residuals, of which he has received basically nothing. This type of financial woe extends to a ton of people in Hollywood. Just wanted to take a moment to wish luck to anyone who's still out there, and hey, awesome that the writer part of the strike is over. That's pretty sick. Number 10, the Community cast. Kicking off our list is a group effort. Chevy Chase was a popular man thanks to National Lampoon and Saturday Night Live, but he returned to the mainstream when he starred as Pierce Hawthorne on the hit sitcom Community. Now, I personally loved this show. Chevy Chase, not so much. And it would appear that his Community co-stars would agree with that statement. Around the middle of the show's runtime, Chevy started to complain about his co-stars, especially Donald Glover. It became apparent that he was more than just angry with Donald and was eventually fired for using racial slurs against him. According to Donald himself, aka Troy Barnes, Chevy would often make inappropriate jokes, either aimed at him or as a general way to disrupt a scene. Joel McHale told People that before he was fired, Chevy was complaining about his character on the show and how he was being portrayed. The entire cast reminded Chevy that there was no contract keeping him there, which may have been part of what set him off on set. His character was written out in truly humiliating fashion, with his life ending after feeding his geese too much, if you know what I mean. He was playing with his ding-dong. Number 9, Tyrese Gibson. It's no longer a surprise to anyone on the planet that James Franco is a bad dude. His negative vibe can actually be traced back to 2005. James and Tyrese Gibson starred opposite each other in a 2005 dramatic piece called Annapolis. The story followed Franco's character wanting to attend the titular Naval Academy and entering into a boxing tournament against some of the Navy's best and brightest. His main opponent was, of course, Tyrese Gibson. Throughout the majority of the film, James and Tyrese would regularly practice their choreography for their final fight of the film. Now, method acting is one thing when you just pretend to be someone else all the time, but it's different when you're literally punching your co-star for real. Instead of the normal film choreography allowing actors to fake hit each other, Franco was throwing real punches left and right without warning. Gibson tried to be civil at first and just asked him to lighten up, but Franco ignored him and continued to box his little heart out. When asked about the incident in interviews, Franco defends himself by saying that he was aware that he made the set difficult at times and just claimed to be so wrapped up in his role that he probably wasn't as friendly as he could be. Gibson, however, holds a massive grudge towards Franco, claiming that he'd never step foot in the same room as him ever again. Good news for Tyrese, James got cancelled and Fast 11 is surely on its way. Maybe they'll go to Atlantis this time. Okay, why does that sound cool though? Number 8, Viola Davis. Now, the stories about Jared Leto Leto, and his acting methods are infamous. On almost every single set that he's been on, this dude has just caused some kind of issue. Someone made a very smart decision to keep Jared away from his castmates on the set of Haunted Mansion. That decision really should have been made though on the set of the long-forgotten 2016 Suicide Squad from DC Comics, when Jared played the Joker and took it just way too far. Now, I have mentioned the fact that he's left live animals in people's trailers and used adult skin tubes on their pillows many times in many other videos. For Amanda Waller, aka Viola Davis, she actually received an unwanted surprise that almost forced her to quit the gig. One day she returned to her trailer where she found a case filled with ammunition. Thousands of little metal life enders were just left there as a gift from Jared. Viola did not think this was a present. In fact, she thought that this was a threat. After speaking to her fellow castmates, she realized that it was just Jared leaving her a fun little gift, you know, just enjoy it. This was frightening to say the least, but for Viola, it set her off. When speaking about her time on the film, she has maintained that Jared was intense, and she's glad that she never had to be face to face with him on screen. Or maybe she was. Honestly, I try not to think about that movie very much. Number 7, Amy Hill. Yeah, baby! This one's shagadelic. Despite being a Canadian treasure and the man behind some comedy cult classics like Austin Powers and Wayne's World, Mike Myers is apparently a menace on set. According to his Cat in the Hat co-star Amy Hill, Mike had handlers dress his entire trailer and work area in tenting. Apparently, he didn't want anyone to physically see him. Honestly, that's fair. If I was in a cat suit with an actual plastic bum crack in it, I would want to hide too. His reputation as a difficult Donnie may have something to do with Hollywood basically blacklisting him from appearing as a lead in anything thanks to The Love Guru, which, again, I try not to think about that movie. Of course, he recently starred in his own show called The Pentaverate, which aired on Netflix, a show where he was forced to play half of the cast because he couldn't get more people to work with him. Or maybe it's because of The Love Guru. Honestly, it's a bad movie, who knows? Number 6, Latto. Latto debuted a new song at Coachella earlier this year, a catchy tune that a lot of fans are calling a direct diss towards Nicki Minaj. The big energy rapper provided fans with a fun dance track packed to the brim with shade. Rapping the lyrics, snitches acting like they're running it, they really ran through. She thought I would kiss her ash, but she mustn't have took her meds. Can you tell I'm not a rapper? Latto ended the song with several clues as to who the song was about, including some ad-libs like, say she got a problem, imaginary smoke, you said it's up, then put on the floor. I honestly would love to quote everything that she sang or said about Nicki, but it just does not sound right coming out of me. I mean, just listen to how I say the word snitch, like the true Harry Potter geek that I am. In the past, the two had a very public battle on Twitter with swear words and shade being thrown left and right. After Coachella in 2022, these two fell out even harder. An all-out verbal war had begun with the two now entangled in a lifelong feud that may never fade. Now, I'm not sure who the rude one is in this case. I will let you be the judge because you're probably a fan and I'm not. Number 5, George Takai. This one is for all of you Star Trek fans out there. Please just live long and prosper and enjoy this video. Now, the world will surely be well aware of this long-standing feud between William Shatner and his Star Trek co-star, George Takai. This feud has lasted over 50 years, and according to George, boils down to William being a prima donna attention hog the entire time he was on set. Over the years, George has always been very vocal about his opinion on his fellow Star Trek cast and crew. Most of the time, he has nothing but nice things to say and claims to have made lifelong friends from the project. But there is one that he despises: William Shatner. William Shatner was the bane of everyone's existence on set. He loved being the center of attention, and he was very self-involved. He wanted everyone to know who he was. William actually responded to these claims, telling people that he believed his Star Trek co-star was damaging his good name for publicity's sake. Why would a man who's barely acted in 30 years suddenly want to bash you for fame and glory? That doesn't make sense. I don't know if anyone's noticed or not, but William Shatner hasn't done much either in a while, other than petition to go to space for real. Number 4, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne and Vin Diesel first met on the set of Fast 5, the 5th Fast and Furious movie. They're really great with names. This was Vin Diesel's 5th movie, while it was Dwayne Johnson's first, not just in the franchise, but in acting in general. Now, at first, everything seemed to be okay with these guys. Fast 5 made a ton of money, and they asked Dwayne to come back for a 6th and 7th installment. However, something changed in 2016 when in a now deleted post called one of his fellow Fast 7 co-stars a candied bum bum, only he didn't say bum bum. Man, I wish I could swear. He actually said a word that rhymes with grass. rumors began to fly that he was more than likely referencing Vin Diesel, rumors proven true only a week later. Following the premiere of Fate of the Furious, Johnson posted to Instagram thanking all of his fellow cast members by name, but he left Vin Diesel out of it. It was later confirmed by Michelle Rodriguez, their co-star, that there was a massive amount of tension on set. They were bros at first, but as time went on, the franchise evolved, and so did their egos. They fought constantly over who should get more screen time, more money, who was the real lead, you know? Toxic stuff like that. To keep both of the actors happy, Johnson was given a spin-off movie where he co-starred with Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel was left right where he belongs with his family. Number 3, Meryl Streep. Dustin Hoffman is a very easy man to spot. Not only is he a solid actor, but he has a very specific face. Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, anyone? Huh? Remember that movie? I didn't until I started writing this script, and I'm gonna go watch it tonight. Despite his ability to play lovable and cheerful characters, he actually started out as somewhat of a villain. On the second day of filming his more famous part in Kramer vs. Kramer, Dustin decided to improvise a scene where he strikes Meryl Streep across the face. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Dustin Hoffman thought it'd be a good idea to slap Meryl Streep. Mamma mia, that's not okay. Get it? Because she was in Mama? I'm just gonna move on. Not only was Meryl shocked by the move, but she recalled that Dustin was also trying to use a tactic on her called emotional recall, taunting her about her late partner, John Cazale, and his illness. So just extra level of evil from Dusty. Number 2, Freddy Prince Jr. Kiefer Sutherland is known for his roles in movies like Lost Boys and Stand By Me, and has built a nice little nest egg for himself. For a long time, he was starring in the crime drama 24. Many celebrities have made small cameos and reoccurring roles on the show, but in 2010, Scooby-Doo alumni Freddy Prince Jr. was casted as Agent Cole Ortiz. Despite the massive success of the show, the job left him scarred, admitting that he hated every moment of it. According to Freddy, Kiefer Sutherland is the most unprofessional person in the entire world. He continued to say that he wasn't talking trash. This was something that he would say happily to Kiefer's face. Apparently, a ton of his co-stars agree that he makes filming a living nightmare. Following the end of his character's time on the show, he did slow down in the acting world, now limiting himself to voiceover and cameo roles. The odd thing was that while there was some people backing up Freddy's story, there were actually a higher number of defenders for Sutherland, claiming the exact opposite was happening. Some say he's the most professional man in the world, so if anyone watching this knows Kiefer, weigh in, write hashtag Kiefer good or hashtag Kiefer bad, and see what happens. Number 1, Rachel McAdams. The Notebook is considered to be a great romantic movie, one of the greatest of all time, in fact. Oddly enough, the on-screen couple did not get along at all while filming. Rachel McAdams and her co-star Ryan Gosling would constantly fight on set and seem to have completely opposite ideas on how most of the scenes should play out. One day in particular was pretty exciting for anyone not involved, all the drama watchers on set enjoying their free tea. Ryan called over the director and demanded that Rachel be replaced by another actress to read her lines. In front of 150 crew members, Ryan Gosling was claiming that Rachel wasn't giving him anything, and the two would constantly yell at each other. Their toxic on-set feud somehow morphed into a real-life relationship that lasted for like 2 years. Anyone who's worked on the set of this film blames them for constant schedule setbacks and creating an overall difficult work environment. So honestly, we don't know who the meanest one was there, Rachel or Ryan. You be the judge. Number 10, Will Smith versus Chris Rock. Let's get this one out of the way, shall we? In 2022, Chris Rock was hosting the 94th annual Oscar ceremony when he decided to make a little joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair loss. Rock expressed his excitement to see Jada in a fictional G.I. Jane movie, which immediately following the joke, which landed for everybody else in the audience by the way, Rock stood in confusion as Will made his way towards the stage. Will adjusted his jacket, he took a firm, strong stance, and then he just clocked Chris in the face. He winded up his hand first to conjure up ultimate force, initially being seen as a planned joke between the two. Will then began shouting several times at Rock from his chair to keep his wife's name out of his flippin' mouth. Chris handled the situation well, he kept his cool, laughed it off for the cameras, and brought out the next award presenters. He was professional and quick to get the night back on track, but unfortunately an hour later, Will Smith won the Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He played Richard Williams, the father of tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams. During his speech, he gave a half-hearted apology for his actions before claiming that the situation was due to his months of portraying the father figure on set, leaving him with an extreme paternal sense to protect his family. Unfortunately for Will, the slap was enough to get him banned from the Oscars indefinitely. Number 9. Chanel West Coast versus Charlamagne the God. Welcome to Ridiculousness with your host Rob Deerdeck and his couch companions Chanel West Coast and Stilo Brim. Ridiculousness is a clip show. If you have MTV, there is a very good chance, like 99% chance, that it is on right now. One of its giggly hosts is Chanel West Coast, a prominent figure in Deerdeck's life since appearing in his very first MTV show, Fantasy Factory. But Chanel broke into the performing world as a rapper in 2014. Following Fantasy Factory, she became a regular host on Ridiculousness, and on one episode of the show, fellow rapper Charlamagne the God was brought on as the celebrity guest commentator. During a conversation with Deerdeck, the God said, "My only strategy is to just tell the truth. Just like whatever I said about you, I'm gonna say about you." To which Chanel replied, "Just because you say something doesn't make it truth." The God continued, saying that it's just his opinion, and he then called out West for being upset simply because the rapper once called her whack. Well, Chanel went off, dropping names like they were bird seeds at a park. She reminded Charlamagne that she was co-signed to a label by rap legend Lil Wayne, who also co-signed Drake and Nicki Minaj. She's got songs with Snoop Dogg, French Montana, YG, so T.Y., Dollar Sign, so don't you dare call this woman whack. Ty the God was left speechless by the outburst. I guess his mouth was just full from all that name-drop smoothie Chanel served him. Number 8. Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. Jerry the King Lawler was a professional wrestler between the 1970s and the late 80s. Andy Kaufman was a comedian and regular star of the legendary sitcom Taxi. Yet somehow their paths seemed destined to cross. On one episode of The Late Show with David Letterman in 1982, Jerry and Andy were brought on to share the stage after a feud between the two had become public. Kaufman wanted to make his name more popular, and he did so by attempting to join the World Wrestling Entertainment industry. He eventually wiggled his way into the ring, and producers felt that Lawler, who was a wrestler for quite some time, and Kaufman would make nice on-screen enemies. Lawler was old school, and Kaufman was a wacky comedian who didn't belong between the ropes. A few months before the interview took place, the two fought in a one-on-one match where Lawler pile-drived Kaufman into the mat twice, and the second of which left Kaufman limp and in need of hospital. On Letterman, Kaufman was sporting a neck brace and appearing to be in enormous amounts of pain. The interview was meant to act as a reconciler for the pair, but instead devolved into shouting, slapping, and the threatening of a lawsuit. Number 7. Taylor Swift versus Kanye West. That's right, these two are in a feud, and apparently it lasted for quite some time. In 2009, Kanye interrupted Swift during MTV's Music Video Awards as she was in the middle of an acceptance speech for Best Female Music Video. While the altercation didn't take place on camera, over the next few months the feud had become public, with Swift bashing Kanye's rude behavior during the time that the ceremony had set aside specifically for her. Kanye later apologized, and things seemed to be fine for a while, until 2015, when the rapper then released a song called Famous, in which he said the line, I'm paraphrasing of course, "I feel like me and Taylor may still make love. Why? I made that be famous." Swift was very vocal about her dislike for the song and claimed that it was written just to undermine her success. And a few months later, Swift also put Kanye's then wife Kim Kardashian on blast after the influencer had publicly approved the song's lyrics. Well, joke's on them though, as they have just made enemies with a woman who fuels her soul with haters. I wonder what she's got cooking up right now. Number 6. Jerry Seinfeld versus Larry King. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld appeared on Larry King's talk show following the announcement of his show sharing his last name being cancelled. It was clear that Jerry wasn't doing his research before the show, however, as midway through the interview he asked Seinfeld how did his show end. He asked if it was cancelled or if Seinfeld had just simply decided to end it himself. Seinfeld paused for a moment before asking King if he was joking. Was he not aware of what had happened? When Larry said no, Jerry went off, asking how he could be so silly, unprofessional. How could his show be cancelled? It was the best show on TV for 9 years. He then asked King King if he was a professional and if this was still CNN, if this was still an interview. Where was he? Before giggling and saying, "Do you know who I am?" The two laughed it off and King expressed that he was just wanting to clarify because he had heard it was cancelled, to which Seinfeld reminded him that his show was #1 every season. There was a big difference between being cancelled and deciding to cancel yourself, Larry. Number 5. Cardi B versus AA Davies. In 2017, rapper Cardi B and model AA Davies appeared on an episode of VH1's Love and Hip Hop talk show. Things became heated very quickly when the topic of Asia's ex-boyfriend Swift came up. According to Davies, she was convinced that Cardi and Swift were intimate together while she was still dating Swift. Cardi responded to the accusations by throwing her stiletto at Aja's face. She then jumped up and began making her way towards the model, but was stopped by 2 large security guards. Good thing too, considering on the other side of the room, Aja had done the same thing and was also being held back. An all-out brawl almost took place, but the altercation resorted to the pair just yelling at each other from across the room, with Cardi's main grievance being the judgment being placed upon her by Davies for being an exotic dancer before her time as a musical artist. While Davies claimed that wasn't the case, it was very clear from both their verbal and physical language that there was certainly some shade looming overhead. For number 4, Sharon Osbourne versus Cheryl Underwood. 2 years ago on the popular talk show The Talk, host Cheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne began to discuss the topic of racism amongst the recent firing of Sharon's personal friend Piers Morgan from Good Morning Britain over a series of comments he had made towards the former Duchess of Sussex. Sharon went off and began aggressively defending her friend, asking Cheryl what Piers had said specifically that was racist. She then went on to say that she was being put in an electric chair, and due to her connection to Piers, that she herself was also going to be blasted as a racist. She went on to clarify that she did not support his comments per se, but she did support his right to free speech. But like, he used free speech to say messed up things, so like maybe don't support him publicly. She then asked Cheryl over and over again how she herself could be racist. What has she done or said? And then Cheryl signed off for a commercial break, before Sharon let out some choice expletives. When they returned, the tension almost seemed worse and the conversation continued to escalate. Eventually, Underwood was able to get her point across and calm down Sharon. The Talk crew chalked the argument up to being a learning experience and a conversation that needed to be had. Number 3, Nicki Minaj versus Miley Cyrus. The MTV, the channel that just continues to deliver us such juicy reality moments. MTV was, however, responsible for the inception of one of the greatest awards shows of all time, previously mentioned on this list. That's right, the Music Video Awards. This ceremony celebrates the best and brightest of the music industry, but in 2015 things got extra juicy. Miley Cyrus, remembered fondly as Hannah Montana and remembered for riding a wrecking ball, was hosting the event that year, when rapper Nicki Minaj had just taken the stage. After winning the Best Hip Hop Video Award, she quickly shifted the audience's attention though from herself to the host. Minaj was calling Miley out for supposedly talking trash about her in a recent interview. She asked Miley, "What's good?" and Miley responded. She kept her cool and explained that everyone in the industry knows how news outlets and interviewers can manipulate footage to make comments sound worse than they actually are. She then reminded the audience about her difficult-to-watch performance at the ceremony in 2008 and threw an 80-foot picture up on the wall behind her just to emphasize the point. Minaj's mic was cut off and Miley introduced the list of artists being nominated for Best Future Artists before leaving the stage. But this wouldn't be the first time Nicki got into it with another celebrity. Number 2, Dakota Johnson versus Ellen DeGeneres. When Dakota Johnson was a guest on the Ellen DeGeneres show in 2019, she took a more subtle and pulled back approach to addressing an issue with the host. Ellen asked Johnson when her birthday was, and then claimed that she had actually never received an invitation for the party. The 50 Shades star quickly smiled and revealed that she actually had in fact extended the invitation, but Ellen never replied. Ellen was baffled, asking Dakota, "Oh, are you sure? There's no possible way that that could happen." To which Dakota replied, "Ask literally anyone here, specifically your producer Jonathan." Following the comment, Ellen is seen searching the room for Jonathan or maybe just anyone that she can yell at because she has a very angry expression on her face, which is understandable. She just got outed as a liar on her own TV show. Unfortunately for Ellen, that wouldn't be the last time, as only a few months later a series of news stories and rumors began to circulate about Ellen's mistreating of studio staff, eventually leading to the show's cancellation last year. Looks like Dakota delivered her 50 Shades of "Oops, sorry, you're cancelled." Number 1. Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj. It's all led to this, a matchup for the ages. A few years ago at a Fashion Week event in New York City, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj appeared at separate times being photographed in stunning gowns on the streets of NYC. However, when the two crossed paths inside the buildings, things escalated quickly. According to witnesses, Nicki purposely stepped on Cardi's dress before spouting some nasty words about Cardi's daughter. First rule of trashing someone who is a parent? Leave the kids out of it. Cardi blew up. She stumbled as she tried to run across the room, once again being held back by bodyguards, but this time she got through. After a moment of calm, Cardi lunges at Nicki but is quickly blocked by her own security team, who must have made contact with Cardi because photos taken of her leaving the event show a nasty bump forming on her forehead. That wasn't the end though, as Cardi then began to remove her shoe and flung it at Nicki from across the room. I swear, she's like a Hawkeye with a shoe or something. Nicki and her team kept the shoe as Exhibit A should they ever need to open a lawsuit for the incident. No charges were ever brought to light, but the two have been in a public feud ever since.
Starting off at number 10, we have Lil Nas X. The rapper has dealt with a fair bit of controversy over the years, but it was a custom Nike sneaker that had people convinced that he had teamed up with Satan. Lil Nas X collaborated with an art collective called Mischief to create a custom Nike Air Max 97 that they would sell for a very high price. The design of the sneaker is what sparked a ton of controversy and had religious groups demanding answers. The shoe was finished in black and red and featured various satanic symbols such as a pentagram and an inverted cross. To make things even weirder, each shoe reportedly had a drop of human blood in them. But the references to the devil did not stop there, as they manufactured exactly 666 pairs and they were all priced at $1,018, a reference to the Bible passage Luke 10:18, which reads, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." To many people, this was absolute proof and confirmation that Lil Nas X had sold his soul to the devil and was converting more followers to worship Satan. At number 9, we have the infamous Aussie Osborne. This one probably shouldn't come as any surprise, as the self-proclaimed Prince of Darkness has done a lot of strange things over the years that has caught the eye of religious groups around the world. While his songs and his appearance seem to portray a bit of a hellish image, he has garnered a lot of attention for doing things like biting the heads off of bats at his concerts. Ozzy himself has even claimed that he doesn't even know why he does some of the things that he does, and believes that he could in fact be possessed by some sort of spirit as a result of selling his soul to the devil. Of course, Osborne's actions and his words have led many people to believe that he is one of Satan's greatest followers, and his concerts serve as massive recruitment ceremonies. Osborne has never denied the claims that he has made deals with the devil, as he even just recently admitted that Satan is the one who protected him from dying from COVID-19. At number 8 on our list is Kristoff Hazman. Hazman was an incredibly gifted painter in the mid to late 17th century, and he was contracted by some of the most noble people in Austria to create artwork for their homes. But of course, being in the 1600s, some people were quick to speculate that his abundance of success was obtained through a deal that he made with Satan. While many people have denied similar claims over the years, Hazman actually confessed to making a deal with the devil early in his career to gain his painting skills in exchange for giving the devil complete ownership of his body and soul. After admitting to the deal, Hazman sought help from a local church after he told them that he wanted to be freed from the devil's grasp, even if it meant losing his skills as a painter. The local priest agreed and performed the exorcism, seemingly releasing Satan from Hazman's body. While Hazman did not lose his painting skills following his exorcism, he began painting scary images that he claimed were depictions of his meetings with Satan and showed everyone what the devil really looked like. At number 7, we have famed violinist Nicolo Paganini. This child prodigy found a passion for music when his parents started to buy him violin lessons when he was just 5 years old. By 15, Paganini was a violin phenom and was already touring Europe to showcase his talents to the masses, but in the late 1700s, many people began to question how he was so talented at such a young age. Rumors of his mother worshipping the devil started to circulate throughout Europe, as they were convinced that she had sold her and her son's souls to the devil in exchange for Nicolo's fame and fortune. These rumors even earned Paganini the title of the devil's violinist, as many people in his native Italy elite believed that his skills were the work of the underworld. Speculation of the deal with Satan only grew near the time of Paganini's passing, when he was brought to a church with a serious illness to be examined by a priest. It was reported that Paganini screamed at the priest and ordered him to leave and let him die. Paganini did end up passing away from his illness, and the nickname of the Devil's Violinist stuck with him forever. At number 6 is every member of Led Zeppelin. This famous British rock band had so many famous songs in their repertoire and is recognized by many as the greatest rock band of all time. While the members have definitely enjoyed their lives of fame and fortune, some of their most famous songs have been marred in controversy and met with outrage from religious groups. Their most famous song of all time, Stairway to Heaven, was slammed by evangelical broadcaster Paul Crouch for containing various subliminal messages that worshipped Satan. He claimed that when the song was played backwards, parts of it recited various satanic messages that could be used to convert people to worship the devil. Some of these verses included, "Oh, here's to my sweet Satan, and he will give those with him 666. The song was seemingly cursed by the devil and was being used to attract new followers to worship Satan as a result of Led Zeppelin's deal with the underworld. In at number 5 is Jay-Z. One of the most successful musicians of all time, Jay-Z has lived a pretty good life up to this point after climbing out of the New York ghetto to become one of the all-time great rappers and music industry professionals. But his rise to fame and fortune has been met with quite a bit of controversy from conspiracy theorists who believe that he has strong ties to the all-powerful Illuminati. Now, of course, the Illuminati is the super exclusive and private secret society that many people believe controls the whole world and is responsible for every major event in human history. The society has long been accused of being servants of Satan, and Jay-Z's connection to the group stems from various lyrics in some of his songs, such as Lucifer, that seem to reference the Illuminati and the devil. Many people believe that Jay-Z's lyrics are factual proof of the deal he made with the devil to escape his ghetto upbringing and become rich and successful. Number 4 is Jack Parsons, a man who many people credit to be one of the earliest pioneers of jet propulsion technology. Parsons was fascinated with flying and space from a young age and wanted to discover ways to send humans into space. Parsons experimented with various methods and elements, but nothing was working for him early on in his career. Now, it does need to be noted that Parsons was already involved in some strange activities, as he was reportedly the leader of a black magic sex cult in California. This perhaps led Parsons to search for help and guidance in another form, as some people believe he used his cult connections to summon Satan, who granted him the knowledge he needed to help pioneer jet propulsion technology. Parsons was ultimately successful in his quest and helped create some of the earliest technology of jet propulsion and explosives that is still used to this very day. However, many people believe the devil wanted him to succeed and helped him create technology that would devastate the human race for eternity. At number 3 is Sam Smith. The singer-songwriter has been no stranger to controversy and backlash over the past few years for some of their performances, but it was a fairly recent performance of their song Unholy at the Grammys that had some people convinced that Smith had admitted to their deal with the devil. Smith entered the stage wearing some pretty revealing clothing, which also included a top hat with red devil horns and a giant pitchfork. They danced around the stage and did some strange movements and gestures that had some people wondering if Smith was possessed by the devil. Many religious figures criticized the performance for promoting devil worship, but some people actually connected Smith's performance with devastating earthquakes that hit Turkey right after the Grammys. Some groups claim that this was God's response to the supposed satanic ritual that took place as a way to warn humans against making deals with the devil. This was not the first time a person's satanic remarks have been linked to natural disasters, and it probably won't be the last either. Number 2 is Giuseppe Tartini. While Tartini was already enjoying a fairly successful career as a talented violinist in the early 1700s, it was one piece in particular that gained Tartini his widespread fame and still has many studying his music today. However, this piece came with a bit of a twist, as Tartini himself revealed that Satan had instructed him on how to play it. Tartini claimed that while he was asleep one night, the devil entered his dream and appeared in front of him playing the violin quite aggressively. Apparently, the piece was quite memorable, as Tartini rewrote it himself and dubbed it the Devil's Trill Sonata. While many violinists are still playing this piece to this very day, others are afraid to touch it as they believe it could be cursed by Satan. After Tartini himself had admitted that the song was written by Satan, this had many people wondering what he had to give up to the devil in exchange for his now famous song. And at number 1 on our list is Bob Dylan. While this famous musician has enjoyed a very lengthy career in the music industry with plenty of success, many people were shocked when the Blowin' in the Wind singer seemingly confirmed his deal with the devil in a very bizarre interview from the 2000s. In the interview, he was asked why he was continuing to play shows after he had been performing for so long and had made so much money that he would never have to work again. Instead of giving the easy answer that he simply enjoyed performing, he told the interviewer that he had made a deal to get where he was and that he had to hold up his end of it. This obviously caught the interviewer a little off guard, who then asked Dylan who he had made the deal with. Dylan simply replied that he had spoken with the chief commander of the earth and the world that we cannot see. It's no surprise really that Dylan's strange answers to some fairly simple questions had many people wondering what this deal consisted of and what he had to give the devil in exchange for his fame and fortune.
Number 10. Angelina Jolie. You would imagine that two people who consider themselves to be humanitarians would agree on something, but apparently that is not the case between Angelina Jolie and Miss Oprah Winfrey. According to an insider close to Oprah, Angelina actually refused to help her launch her Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa. According to the source, Oprah reached out seeking celebrity sponsorships and public backing for the project. But when she reached out to Angelina, she was met with a swift no. Oprah assumed that Angelina, of all people, would jump at the chance to represent such an incredible cause, especially considering how much Angelina apparently loved Africa. But the no was a devastation, and she would never ask for Angie's help ever again. Many people believe that the hate towards Oprah stems from her decision to publicly side with Jennifer Aniston after she split from Angie's ex, Brad Pitt. Hey, to be fair to Oprah, the split came literally weeks before Brangelina became public, so I'm just saying. Number 9. Ice Cube. Ice may have gotten his career thanks to his epic music chops, both as a solo artist as well as during his time with the NWA, but these days you probably know him as the guy from Ride Along or 21 Jump Street. Ice Cube started acting in movies in 1991, debuting in the film Boys in the Hood as Doughboy. He continued to act over and over again, starring in movies like Friday, Anaconda, and Are We There Yet? His dislike for Oprah comes from the fact that while he has starred in several movies and has become more widely known for that, she has never invited him onto her show. She's even asked his co-stars to appear rather than himself on multiple occasions. In 2006, Ice Cube expressed his frustrations, saying that his barbershop co-stars Cedric the Entertainer and Eve were invited onto the show while he was left onto the sidelines. He pointed out how crazy it is that Oprah has all of these people with dark pasts and straight up convictions. Plus, if he wasn't a rags to riches story, who the heck was? We got a little piece of that story in the film Straight Outta Compton in 2015, which is a film that received massive critical success and that was never mentioned on Oprah's show. Ever. Not once. Number 8. Seal. This man may be known for his vocal chops, but he should be known for his meme-making abilities. Just days after the Golden Globes in 2018, Seal posted a meme on Instagram consisting of several photos of Oprah Winfrey cozying up with a man whose name I am not allowed to say on the internet because he's so heinous. He's the guy who produced half of Quentin Tarantino's movies, he's the main cause of the Me Too movement, and for the rest of this entry he shall be referred to as Jabba the Hutt, because he kinda looks like him. Oprah and Jabba were photographed spending time together, and one photo even made it look like Oprah was pushing singer Rita Ora towards Mr. Hutt. Seal captioned the image saying a bunch of stuff that I can't quote. Gosh darn internet. The meme itself read, "When you have been part of the problem for a decade, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." I'm not sure how deep this feud goes, but on the surface it seems that Seal has been trying to warn us that something is going on for quite some time. Number 7. Ludacris. Luda! Sorry, I just needed to get that out of my system. Ludacris appeared on Oprah in 2004 to promote the film Crash. He claimed that Oprah ambushed him with criticism about hip-hop lyrics instead of talking about the actual critically acclaimed movie that he was there to plug. Luda has since claimed that Oprah edited the show to make herself seem more favorable to the audience members, and he said during a separate interview that she edited out all of his comments and kept her own in. Of course, it's her show, but they were doing a show on racial discrimination, and she gave Luda a hard time as a rapper when he came on the show as an actor. Luda revealed that his interview was extremely last minute, not knowing if it was a real thing until roughly 24 hours before. Following the interview on Oprah, she pulled Luda aside to the green room where he claims to have been berated by the talk show host. According to Oprah, having a rapper on her show made her feel like she was empowering them. He said it was like being at someone's house who just really didn't want you there. At that point, he had already been so uncomfortable, but that was just a little bit of cherry on top of the sundae. Her main concern was his use of the N-word in lyrics, but he quickly pointed out the hypocrisy of having people like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock on the show who were famous for using that slur in their sets. Oprah's shadiness was on full display following the interview from Luda. Nope, I can't say it normally, I'm sorry. Number 6, Monique. The beef between comedian and actress Monique and Oprah Winfrey dates back to 2010. Monique won an Oscar for her performance in Precious from 2009, and leading up to the film's premiere, Winfrey interviewed Monique's brother, Gerald, who Monique claimed to have been very physical towards her growing up in a truly dark way that I really can't get into. In a since-deleted Periscope video, Monique claimed that she gave Winfrey her blessing to do the interview, but was shocked and disgusted when her parents were in the audience. In the years that followed, Monique eventually forgave Oprah for creating such an uncomfortable moment for herself and her family, and while forgiving Oprah, she does continue to say that she would never forgive her parents for the role that they played and for not doing something about the situation that was happening right under their noses. Oprah really needs to stop bringing people on the show to talk about some dark stuff. It's just not fun. It's just not fun. Number 5, Whoopi Goldberg. In author Kitty Kelly's unauthorized Oprah biography, Kelly claims that Whoopi Goldberg became a persona non grata, aka an unwelcome person, to Oprah after Whoopi was nominated for an Oscar for her role in The Color Purple. The book noted that following the honor, the comedian never appeared on Oprah's show again and was noticeably shunned from her 2006 Legends Ball. It wasn't until Oprah invited the entire cast of The Color Purple onto the show that the so-called feud was addressed. It turns out that Oprah had actually ran into Whoopi at Tyler Perry's party sometime after the 2006 snub. Goldberg confronted Oprah, leading to a hilariously adorable moment between them. She asked Oprah why she was mad at her, to which Oprah replied, "Why am I mad at you? I thought you were mad at me." They mutually agreed that they really should have just picked up the phone a long time ago and settled the dispute, so to say. Number 4, David Letterman. A majority of the world believes that Oprah's feud with David Letterman dates back to 1995 after he made an awkward joke at the Academy Awards. But Letterman claims that their beef actually started a lot earlier than that. According to an interview between David and late night host Jon Stewart, David claims that his feud with Oprah began many years before the Oscars. He explained that he ran into Oprah when they were both on vacation with other people. He explained that she was with Stedman at the time, and David was with his then girlfriend, Regina. David decided it would be really funny to prank Oprah one day at lunch. The story goes that the waiter walked past him, and he simply pointed to Oprah and said, "This woman right over there has been kind enough to take care of our checks." And then they got up and left Oprah with the bill. Yeah, I'm not surprised that she's not stoked about that. Even millionaires don't appreciate sneaky people. Winfrey has never cited that as being the source of her anger, though. Apparently, she felt that the feud began when she was a guest on his talk show in 1986. David continued to make rude jokes at her expense and made her feel extremely uncomfortable. She did not speak to him for 16 years after that. David is a strange man, especially when it comes to female guests, so it's not a surprise that she was uncomfortable the whole time. Number 3, 50 Cent. The rapper once referred to Oprah as an Oreo in the January 2006 issue of Elle magazine, complaining that the talk show queen started out with the views of a black woman, but was now catering to the middle-aged white American woman for so long that she became one herself. His words, not mine. Cent even named his miniature schnauzer Oprah as a dig at the talk show host. During an episode of Oprah's The Next Chapter, Cent was invited on to discuss the situation and clear the air. Oprah visited 50 at his grandmother's house for the interview, where he explained that his frustrations lied with Oprah's lack of hip-hop artists on her show and just how much she detested the use of the N-word. He claimed that he had seen moments on the show when she would discuss her feelings on rap culture and everything that was wrong with it, going on to say that she would occasionally target his music directly. According to Cent, he called Oprah his enemy in the exchange, and he has never spoken to her again. Number 2, Joan Rivers. The late Joan Rivers actually publicly fat-shamed Oprah Winfrey on live television during her first ever live TV appearance. Great way to start a relationship. Oprah spoke out about the incident in her book Food, Health, and Happiness, and in one entry she tells the story of appearing on The Tonight Show in 1985. All was going smoothly and she was starting to settle into her role, and that was when she was asked the one question she did not prepare for. Joan Rivers asked Oprah how she gained the weight. According to Oprah, she was just stunned because Joan just asked her on live TV how she was so fat. Her words, not mine. I'm not calling Oprah fat. We do not fat shame here, obviously. Joan was acting as a guest host at the time, sitting behind a desk that was not hers, telling Oprah that she was fat. That is like next level rude. In the years that followed, Joan claimed that she loathed Oprah, allegedly calling her rise to fame completely opportunistic. For years, she believed that Oprah's only so-called claim to fame was her gift to exploit people's suffering and emotions and turning them into TV ratings. Oprah has brought on a lot of people who are suffering from serious hardships, but this is a popular format for many people like Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz. Man, there are a lot of doctors on TV, huh? Dr. Oprah, I guess that just didn't have a nice ring to it. And at number 1, Chris Brown. Chris was in some hot water in 2009 after Oprah hosted a domestic violence episode in which she showed footage of Chris's infamous video involving his then girlfriend Rihanna. After the episode aired, Chris took his frustrations to People magazine, which is a good place to go. He commended Oprah for addressing the fact that it was a problem, but that it was a slap in his face. He went on to tell people how much he had done for Oprah over the years, and how this was a massive betrayal, telling her to be more helpful. Okay, Mr. Brown. Oprah released a statement later saying that she was very appreciative of his help and charity, but that she takes domestic issues very seriously. Chris doubled down by retaliating against Oprah, telling her that she was bashing him and tearing him down rather than building him up. Well, we all know how most celebrities feel about Chris Brown these days, so I think she was in the right there. Number 10, Adam Sandler. Adam had a pretty stellar career up until 2011. After starring in the sketch show Saturday Night Live, Adam was being taken seriously as a comedic actor and was given his first on-screen gig in 1989's Going Overboard. It's a movie about a young comedian taking a job on a cruise ship hoping for his big chance to make it in the world. The movie did terribly, but thankfully it wasn't Adam's fault because he didn't write the thing, so he was given another chance a few years later in the classic comedy Airheads. That's when Adam's career really took off. He was casted as the leading man in several movies between 1995 and 2000, including some that he co-wrote like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy, all sports-themed movies. Confusing. Honestly, his movies were some of my favorite growing up, and I had all of his DVDs. Up until Jack and Jill, the movie that told the world that Adam had given up. The movie starred Adam starring as a twin brother and sister trying to get closer over the holidays. Terrible premise, right? But just wait! There's a B plot where Al Pacino falls for that sister and stars in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, which is just the most obvious and obnoxious cash grab ever. Since then, Adam's movies seem to just be an excuse for him and his family to get a working vacation. Just Go With It was the first big budget follow-up for Adam, and the story took place in Hawaii, where they also filmed majority of the project. He's actually set a few of his movies in Hawaii, one in Africa, and even one in Toronto, which isn't tropical but still Canadian vacay. Since signing his deal with Netflix, releasing several movies exclusively to the platform, he has continued to pump out meh after meh. Except for Hubie Halloween, that movie is adorable. Number 9, Cameron Diaz. Cameron's break from the acting world was a massive shock to her fans. Her career was going nowhere but up following her role in the 1995 comedy classic The Mask alongside Jim Carrey. She was even given a cozy little position working in a sound booth alongside Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy in the animated series Shrek, that currently sits at 4 movies. Come on, baby, bring home the 5th. While she suddenly stopped acting in 2014, it wasn't until 2018 that she officially announced that she would be retiring from the acting world to focus more on her family life and mental health. According to Cameron, working at such a high caliber for such a long period of time took a ton out of her, and following the negative reviews from her movies like Bad Teacher and SEX Tape, yeah, I can't say it, but I can spell it, she apparently took the comments to heart and decided to give up her acting career. She will be making one more movie appearance in an upcoming action movie starring Jamie Foxx that just wrapped production roughly a month ago and is set to release sometime early in 2024. However, just days after the set wrapped, she announced that she would once again be returning to the world of motherhood, as the long set days now only acted as time that she could be spending with her family. Number 8, Nick Cage. Nick Cage is one of the most unhinged actors that's still working in Hollywood today. If you want to watch one of his movies, you have like 100 to choose from. This dude pumps out movie after movie, keeping the paychecks coming in. But just because he's making movies left and right doesn't mean that he cares about his job. Between 1990 and 2000, Nick starred in several box office successes that should have landed him in a really comfortable spot financially, but instead Nick chose to use that money on stuff. He bought houses, cars, boats, and he had almost $10 million in his pocket by 1999, but he spent the past 20 years owing almost $4 million in taxes and fees, which is why it sometimes feels like he's just given up creatively speaking. His movies are either hits like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or floppy flop-flops like The Wicker Man. He maintained a steady stream of work, but it's only been this past year that Cage really seems to be enjoying his job again, with Renfield being a surprise hit with fans, claiming Nick's performance as the undead Prince of Darkness was the most alive that he's been in years. Alright, number 7, Al Pacino. What's my name? Dunkachino. Alright, a song and dance that lives rent-free in my skull thanks to the movie Jack and Jill, previously mentioned on this list. Now, Al was no slouch in the acting department when he first started regularly appearing on screens in the 1970s. His role as the iconic no-no-snow enthusiast Scarface has gone down in history as one of the most powerful performances of all time. However, Al's career took a massive dip after Jack and Jill. The role of him playing himself made the world see him as a bit of a kooky old man, which is exactly what he started being casted as. In movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and House of Gucci, Al looks like he was given the script on the day of, that he was squeezed into a suit and physically plopped into place by a PA or something. With Al now being a new dad at the age of 83, yeah, that's true, it appears that he has given up his screen time for more of a wholesome family life with his mistress and his wife. What? Number 6, Samuel L. Jackson. Sam is an incredible actor and is one of the examples of actors on this list who gave up in the sense that they just stopped trying so hard to do their jobs, because he just got too good at it. Sam got his start in movies like Pulp Fiction and Jurassic Park, and for the past few years he's been working in a cozy acting gig as the man who created the Avengers, Colonel Nick Fury, recently starring in his own Disney Plus series that was centered around his character. But what that means is for the past 10 years, this man has just shown up to set, put on an eye patch, and done his job. No ifs, no ands, no buts. He has appeared in many projects outside of Marvel in movies like Glass or The Hitman's Bodyguard, but even then, he just leans into his own mannerisms and charm, delivering constantly solid performances with basically no effort. Number 5, Eddie Murphy. Eddie is massive in the world of comedy and is considered an on-screen legend, portraying characters like the Nutty Professor, Mushu from Mulan, and of course, Donkey from Shrek. However, between 2005 and 2012, Murphy was starring in movies that were noticeably worse in quality than what we were used to. Movies like Meet Dave, 1,000 Words, Tower Heist, they all felt like movies that he had been forced to make. In fact, following 1,000 Words, he actually decided to take a break from acting entirely, making his return in 2016's Mr. Church. Despite popping up in a few movies since, like Coming to America or You People, Eddie has been taking breaks between filming, with his next performance still up in the air. Number 4, Chris Hemsworth. In his early days of acting, Chris was starring in every genre that would take him, never really finding his footing. Popping up in movies like Star Trek or Cabin in the Woods, but the world universally agreed that action was going to be his realm, thanks to the success of the first Thor movie. Over the next few years, Chris attempted to branch out into other projects, starring in movies like In the Heart of the Sea and Black Hat. But things shifted when he got the chance to work on the universally hated Ghostbusters reboot from 2016, starring an all-female lead cast, with Chris acting as their secretary. Hey, you can hate me all you want, that movie had an incredible cast and it would have done so much better if the internet weren't so terrible. But the one thing people actually agreed on is that Chris did a wonderful job and he was responsible for some of the funniest moments of the project. But fun fact, before that movie, he was never actually encouraged to improvise his lines. Instead, he just stuck to his script and moved on. Instead, just sticking to the script. He had an incredible time on set, and when it came to start production on the third entry of the Thor franchise, Chris had a brilliant idea. And thankfully, the director Taika Waititi had a massive background in and comedy and was happy to see Chris have so much fun on set. It seems that ever since Ghostbusters, Chris has just given up trying to be some cool, edgy, quiet guy and has instead embraced himself as a lovable giant who can still throw down if he needs to. Number 3. TJ Miller. Many fans of the Marvel Universe will recognize TJ as Weasel, but many may know him as Erlich Bachman from the hit HBO series Silicon Valley. Between 2014 and 2020, Miller was on a hot streak. He has a unique voice that was perfect for voiceovers, and he was considered to be an elite in the world of comedy. However, in the past few years, Miller has remained pretty quiet in the world of Hollywood, and that unfortunately has to do with a long battle of substance control issues. TJ is a connoisseur of many different narcotics and substances, and following his stepping away from Silicon Valley, Miller found it harder and harder to secure steady work. He was hoping to develop his own series or possibly lead a franchise, instead of just popping up in one like in Transformers 4. Instead, Miller fell deep into his hobby, and unfortunately a surgery he had a couple of years after filming the live-action Yogi Bear movie left him needing medication to regulate his brain functions, something that he's admitted to being an attributing factor of why he has such a rough reputation in Hollywood. Rather than continue to make bad movies and moving on, he decided to just stop acting entirely and focus on his mental health. Number 2. Jeff Cohen. Now, Jeff's name may not be familiar to you, but his most iconic and only acting role certainly is. Jeff played Chunk in the much-loved classic adventure movie The Goonies. Chunk was one of the many young actors in search of the treasure of One-Eyed Willie, so they can save their small seaside neighborhood from being bulldozed to the ground. This movie has aged like a fine wine, and it just gets better and better the older you get. Jeff stole the show and truly stood out among the ensemble. Who could forget his notorious interrogation scene? This man almost got blended! Following the success of the movie, many were under the impression that he was going to have a long and fruitful career. While his co-stars went to star in franchises like Lord of the Rings and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jeff decided to go the opposite direction and he quit acting entirely. Unfortunately for Jeff, he was being pegged as a chubby actor, so that's exactly what people were trying to cast him in. And rather than give him room to grow and breathe, studios were trying to typecast him as the big nerdy guy in every single project. Finding it difficult to secure work, it was unfortunately puberty that secured his fate. He was going from chunk to hunk, according to an interview with the Daily Mail. Eventually, he realized it just made sense to give up for now and try something new. So that's exactly what he did. He went to school, he focused on his mental health, and he got a degree in law. He now works out of a law firm that he co-founded with his business partner, Cohen Gardner. So that's pretty cool. And at number 1, Harrison Ford. Harrison is of course the man behind the whip and hat of Indiana Jones, who's a character who just had his 5th film released in theaters with a massive box office return. Now, this is an entry where I mean nothing to be negative towards Harrison, and when I say he's given up, I mean that he just doesn't have to act anymore. Harrison is in his 80s, believe it or not, but he is still considered by his friends and family to be a lively troublemaker, not unlike his Star Wars character Han Solo, another character that he simply just does not care about perfecting anymore because he knows that he already has. In his early days playing these characters when they first premiered, Harrison felt tremendous pressure. As soon as the films were successful, 2 franchises rested on his shoulders. But over the years, the more times he had to step into the shoes of his alter egos, the more comfortable he seemed to become. Harrison gave up trying to be good a long time ago. Number 10. Seth Rogen and James Franco. Our first spot on this list is a double down, as the situation surrounding their run from the law was a shared experience. In 2014, Seth Rogen and James Franco starred in a little film called The Interview, in which they play a talk show producer and host respectively, and are granted the opportunity to interview the supreme leader of North Korea. Spoiler alert, at the end of that movie, the supreme leader is blown up in a helicopter and the heroes liberate the country. Needless to say, that did not sit well for Kim. When news of the film and its content began circulating a few months before its scheduled worldwide theater release, the Korean government hacked Sony's servers to watch the film and gained the private information of its employees. This led to Seth and James personally being threatened by Korean law enforcement that they were being viewed as enemies to the country and were therefore a threat. This caused Rogen and Franco to go into hiding, having Sony Studios hire 24/7 security at their private homes. The government continued to threaten the two until they had edited the movie to the supreme leader's approval. After a couple of months of hiding, Rogen joked about in his book Yearbook that one morning those guards that were in front of his house were just gone. Yeah, no goodbye, no good luck, nothing. It was decided that the film would make more money and be more accessible if it premiered online, making it one of the first full-length feature films to premiere on the Google Play Store. I got it on iTunes. Okay, I downloaded it illegally. Number 9. Bam Margera. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Bam Margera is best known for bringing his body to the brink of destruction on numerous occasions. I run down the titles of things that he's been in, but most of them are just a little bit too raunchy for YouTube, so I don't know, Google his name and just figure it out for yourself. Unfortunately, Bam has also been one of the many Hollywood bad boys that have fallen into serious addiction and substance control problems. Since the mid-2000s, Bam has been in and out of prisons and rehabs, always being able to clean up his act momentarily, but unfortunately falling right back into his old habits. This is too bad considering just last year on fellow stuntman Steve O's podcast, Bam reported that he was doing very well and he had actually just finished a full year in rehabilitation. It seems that he has returned to his rambunctious ways though, as a few weeks ago it was reported that there was a warrant out for Bam's arrest following an altercation with his brother, which included Bam spouting very threatening threats to his entire family. A manhunt was issued for the stuntman, as his many run-ins listed him as dangerous and aggressive. After 3 days, the hunt was called off because Bam came to his senses and decided to turn himself in. So far, there is no news on the outcome of what actually happened to Bam, but we're pretty certain it's not great. It's probably not good. Number 8. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has been in the acting scene since 2008, first appearing in films such as After School and Perks of Being a Wallflower. They seemed like a normal functioning member of society until 2019, when cast and crew started noticing odd behavior from the actor. They'd often appear wearing capes or robes on set that were never actually a part of the wardrobe, as well as having scattered thoughts and motivation both on and off screen. In 2020, a video surfaced of Miller in a violent altercation outside of a bar in Iceland, which would be the first of many videos showcasing the actor's misdeeds, eventually leading to Miller breaking and entering into someone's house in Hawaii of all places. I guess they were a little bit chilly and they couldn't find a blanket or something, I don't know. Miller then went on to run from Hawaiian authorities for a little over a week, supposedly squatting in abandoned buildings and sleeping on the beach. They were eventually caught and charged with breaking and entering, as well as aggravated swatting, as Miller had apparently gotten into a fist fight just before breaking into the house. Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. Number 7. Shakira. While her hips may not lie, apparently she does. Famous pop singer Shakira made headlines in 2018 when Spanish prosecutors announced that Shakira failed to pay $14.5 million in European taxes between 2012 and 2014. Shakira has claimed that her primary residence at the time was in the Bahamas, but the authorities say that she was living in Barcelona during this period in a house that she had purchased in May of 2012. Shakira was adamant that this never took place, and the Spanish government were simply trying to ruin her name. She dodged the Spanish government for years until she was forced to pay the full tax debt plus $3 million in interest. But the law didn't stop there, as they apparently continued to berate her to this day, claiming that there's still money owed on her account. Shakira finally had enough and decided to stop avoiding the law and face them head on, beginning a lawsuit which she is said to be very confident to win. Number 6. Mark Wahlberg. That's right, Mackie Mac from the Funky Bunch once ran from the law for something that happened in his youth in 1999. From a young age, Mark actually suffered from substance control issues, which many linked to his parents' divorce when he had just become a teenager. He took a lot of his anger out on those around him while under the influence, with one instance leaving him on the run and in hiding from authorities for over a month. One night on his way home, Wahlberg ran into and began an altercation with 2 Vietnamese men using a large stick as a weapon. This escalated to the point where one man was left blind in one eye and Mark was charged with attempted extermination. This charge was very serious, and knowing what could come of it caused Wahlberg to pack his bags and bolt, staying with friends for a month until he was eventually found and arrested. He pleaded guilty to aggravated thwacking and was sentenced to 2 years, of which he only served 45 days. He's since become a Hollywood giant, starring in blockbusters like the Transformers franchise, and he's steered clear of the law ever since. Number 5. Michelle Rodriguez. While many fans know Rodriguez as the action star from the Fast and Furious franchise and most recently the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, she's best known by law enforcement for her many drinking and driving related incidents. These included a number of charges from driving under the influence to attempted swatting while under the influence. These sentences carried out a small jail sentence of only a few days each, but in one instance Rodriguez only served 4 hours of a 4-day prison sentence due to overcrowding, and she even served 2 days of a 60-day sentence sentenced for the same reason. While she may have been let out early, the charges did come with a significant amount of community service. Of course, as many of us know, when you are convicted of a crime, no matter how small, there tends to be a probationary period attached to it, meaning there's a certain amount of time when you are prohibited from violating specific rules and especially committing crimes. Unfortunately for Rodriguez, a hit-and-run incident in Los Angeles placed her in violation of said parole and a warrant was issued for her arrest. The actress was nowhere to be seen following the incident, as multiple attempts to contact her by police went nowhere. It turns out she had been hiding from them because she knew this time there would be no overcrowding loopholes. She was eventually arrested and was made to serve a 6-month jail stint for violation of her probation. Hey, that rhymed. Number 4. Mel Gibson. In 2006, the Braveheart star was pulled over by Los Angeles police who suspected Gibson was not in his right mind to be behind the wheel of a car. While Mel has had many run-ins with the law over the years for numerous reasons, it was his issues with the happy juice that got him on this list. As the officers pulled Mel over, they calmly went through the procedure of administering a roadside sobriety test, which Mel of course failed. When he was politely asked by the officer to enter the squad car, not even putting handcuffs on this guy, he responded by literally running from the law, like he sprinted away. According to the police reports, he made a mad dash towards his vehicle, but before the officer could start a foot pursuit, the go-go juice had already hit Mel's legs and he fell face first into the pavement. Way to make an impact, Mel! Get it? Because his face impacted the road and he's been in a movie called... Moving on! Number 3. Ja Rule. Ja Rule is a famous rapper, producer, and actor with multiple platinum records under his belt. He's also well known among the rich and powerful as a silly man who invests in silly things. In 2018, Ja Rule began promoting a music festival called Theyre. The festival was said to be a private concert on a luxurious beach in the Bahamas. People were paying him and the co-founder of the event, Billy McFarland, millions of dollars to rent private yachts and mega mansions that just, didn't exist. After the festival went forward as scheduled, many people were shocked to find that their homes were actually leftover hurricane shelters from the island, and that their 5-star meals would be of a worser quality than many middle school cafeterias. Not to mention, almost every single event, perk, or promise from that festival was cancelled or fake, and eventually the entire festival itself was cancelled. Thousands of disgruntled concert goers formed a civil suit against Ja Rule and Billy McFarland and had enough evidence and cause to win the battle with no effort. This may be why Ja Rule bailed. He fled the island the moment things started to go wrong on site, and he was elusive in the public eye for several weeks. Eventually, Rule was contacted by law enforcement and made aware of the charges that were being brought against him. Luckily for Ja Rule, he was only a part of the civil suit, while his partner Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in jail after the FBI found evidence of multiple counts of wire fraud. Number 2. O.J. Simpson. Today we will be discussing O.J. Simpson, and no, it's not for what you might think. While O.J. had a major run-in with the law in the 1990s, he was later acquitted of those charges being brought against him. However, one night in 2007, O.J. gathered up a crew of goons and made his way to the Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. A sports memorabilia dealer named Bruce Fremong testified that the men entered his hotel room and stole memorabilia while threatening his life. The altercation lasted for 6 minutes, but the event was described to have been fast and loud, as the crew were strictly there to keep Bruce quiet while the others took the goods. For 3 days following the event, police were on the search for OJ, as not only was the memorabilia that they stole specifically his, but nobody was wearing a mask or anything at that time, so Bruce was very quick to point the finger. OJ was eventually located and charged with robbery and aggravated pushiness, and was sentenced to 33 years in prison. And at number 1, Jake Lloyd. Jake was the little boy that became a Sith Lord, playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1. While his character eventually becomes Darth Vader, Lloyd's personal life would turn out to be just as rough. Following the release of the film, Jake was actually picked on relentlessly by both his peers and Star Wars fans. He grew up with people hating him in public settings and cursing his name whenever Episode 1 was ever mentioned. Seriously, people were hating on this guy like he was Greta Thunberg or something. This was surely an attributing factor to his growth as a person, as over the years he had become more and more violent in the public eye, and was well known for being short-tempered. In 2015, police chased the 26-year-old Lloyd for 25 miles before he finally crashed off a roadside on Interstate 95 in South Carolina. He was not intoxicated at the time, but after being arrested and sent for a psychiatric evaluation, it was concluded that the young actor had been suffering from schizophrenia and he was held for treatment.